The Kaiser has looked at our plans for improving the firepower and size of the German fleet with approval. However, he has demanded that we build, on top of the battle cruisers that are already designed, a actual battleship, a dreadnought, a large dreadnought, to serve as a flagship in his name and to project German power and show the prowess that the German Navy can bring to bear. Given the political situation, we have started moving our forces that were on training cruises around Africa back towards the home ports. We are consolidating our fleet in the Baltic Sea, as well as the fleet in East Asia. In other news, our research division has conducted some testing with some actual live fire testing with the guns that we're preparing for the new ships, and has found that the penetration tables that we have been using in the past were somewhat off track, and has corrected these values, which means we are now having a much better idea of what we are actually going to be able to achieve going up against the British. Hello everyone, and welcome back to Ultimate Admiral Dreadnoughts. In the service of the Kaiser, a month has passed since the last time. Not an awful lot has happened, and just to mention a couple of things that may have confused people up in the first episode. The fleet that we're currently having or the ship designs that we're currently having, was not auto-generated, but I have actually designed these ships. So what you can do at the start of the game is you can create your own fleet, or you can let the computer generate one for you, which tends to look like rather ridiculous. The thing is, though, the computer-generated fleet seems to happen over a decade, the last decade, until the game starts. Whereas you can design a fleet with the latest and greatest ships, which I haven't done, because I wanted to have ships that are somewhat, well, I wouldn't say historically accurate, but I have tried as much as possible to be historically accurate. So this is actually the literal Nassau class of battleships. The von der Tann class of battle cruisers, and the Blücher, of which there was only one, but the Dresden class as well is relatively accurate. So these ships are not the most powerful, but I didn't want to give myself an unfair advantage. Now, back on with the show. And the first thing that that our spies on the British coast have reported is that large parts of the British fleet have set sail and are actually sailing towards Southeast Asia, from the rumors that have been mentioned in the taverns and at the decks and the docks, that many of the British warships are moving towards the Southeast Asian theater. So given that the British are probably preparing for war with us and Austria-Hungary, this can only mean that the British are potentially planning to take on our fleet in Southeast Asia. We have slightly reduced the forces in Tsingtao, the largest port that we control here, but we still have the Gneisenau, which is a Nassau class, the Bayern, which is a von der Tann class battle cruiser, and two Blücher class heavy cruisers, and the Frankfurt, which is a Dresden class light cruiser, sitting in here. We've also got some smaller forces at this point. We are sending a light cruiser and 4 destroyers over to Friedrich Wilhelmshaven in New Guinea. We have a couple of destroyers at the east coast of Africa in Dar es Salaam, and the battleships from the west coast are sailing back towards the North Sea. Otherwise, most of the German high seas fleet is currently concentrated around Danzig, and we are getting a couple of battleships returning towards the seas. But we're definitely going to need to build more ships. So let's begin. And yes, just a final note here: if you're expecting combat, there will be combat, but it's slow going. So right now we're in the phase where there is a threat of war with the British and the French, but we're not there yet. And we are still constructing some ships, and we're still just preparing for the eventuality. So one thing that that kind of stands out is that we don't have a sufficient amount of light cruisers, especially to do things like convoy raiding. We don't have enough destroyers, and also our destroyers are a little bit out of date in how they are constructed. So we're going to design a couple of ships today, and the first thing we're going to be doing is a new battleship. And that is going to be the Kaiser Wilhelm II class. Yes, I haven't actually pre-filled that. The game did that for me. That is exactly what we're going to be doing. So we're going to build a Dreadnought 3-hull, a 34,000 ton displacement battleship. The optimal speed, or the maximum optimal speed for this class would be 22.3 knots. So let's start with 22 knots and see what that looks like. So 22 knots, we'll be talking about. Well, we will have to adjust everything as we go, but. Right now we have some displacement left. It's going to be expensive, it's going to be huge, and we're not going to build an awful lot of them because these are going to be the flagships. I am thinking of building 2 of them, one for the East Asia squadron and one for the home fleet, for the Hochseeflotte. But we do semi-oil. We don't know yet about the boilers. Definitely turbine engines, and we could go with diesel engines or petrol engines. I am let's see what the difference is. So with diesel engines, we're talking 100 odd tons, and with that, it's a little less. Yeah, it's about 73 tons less. Well, we'll go with diesel engines for now. And improved shaft, maybe. Thinking balanced rudder, and I will try to avoid ship flaws as much as possible. So I'm going to stick with the hydraulic steering here. The best armor we can have: double bottom hulls, reinforced bulkheads, flood protection, and 2 underwater protected decks. We'll get to the armor later once we figured out what we can actually do here. But for now, we are going to begin with sticking a tower on it. And I am thinking of using this rather large tower here. So let's begin with that, because that is a big superstructure. We're going to need a small rear superstructure probably, but we can try to fit. That in, but I think that isn't even fitting. We could try to fit that one in. That one might fit. So let's see what that looks like. We'll change it. We'll change it as we go if we need to. Funnel wise, what do we need? What do we need funnel wise? Let's see. That would be the biggest. That gets us to 96%. So that's not quite enough. So we're going to have to go with induced boilers anyway. That's 144. That's 159 actually. This is maybe not a. This gives us a good amount of damage control, but also a relatively large target signature. Although I don't think that's anything we can do about. But it is a bit heavier than this one. That one would be. That's one we could fit in here. Let's go with that for now. And yes, if we go back to natural boilers, then well, we've got 99% engine efficiency, which is actually quite good. So was this the largest one? No, we could actually put the hyperfunnel 4 in there. So if we do that, come on, that in there. Yeah, I'm okay with that at 22 knots. That saves us a bit of weight from not having to use the induced boilers, which also massively increases the smoke interference that we're dealing with here. We are going to need rangefinders, but we'll decide on that later. We're definitely going to need an advanced radio. So the one advantage that this has is we actually don't need to put barbettes because we've already got some super firing things here. We, however, have a bit of a forward weight offset. Now, looking at the main guns, I am thinking 305 mils, and as you can see, the penetration tables have been corrected. This was actually a patch in the game, but I figured I'll find a good reason for it. We could go with the 330s as well, but I'm sort of okay with the 305s. I think slightly faster reload, and because I do want to fit a lot of them on here. So let's see what that looks like. So we put 2 forward, and we could fit 3 of them aft, Not a little bit forward. There we go. Unfortunately, now we have an extreme forward weight offset. So see, that's a bit of the problem here. We could get with a 10 gun layout, but I don't think there's an awful lot I can do about this, because even if I take this gun away, I can't move the rearward superstructure into the back much anymore, and the forward superstructure is so massive that we're not going to get out of this forward weight offset easily. So maybe what we'll do instead is we're going to use a smaller secondary tower, which we can sort of push about here-ish. Then we can still fit one of the guns here without having to use a barbette, and no, the turret can, the funnel can stay, but the forward superstructure can move backwards, which is going to help with the forward weight offset significantly, and is also going to help with not spending too much of our available weight on the armor plating, because the main belt only needs to cover the barbettes from these. I think that's something I'm reasonably happy with. Let's see if we can move that X turret a little bit back still, and adjust the whole setup such that we can actually almost get towards a balanced model, but we are going to need to do some more balancing later as we go. So for now, yeah, that's kind of where we're at. Okay, we could even move that turret out a little bit still, but so that's a balanced base layout for the Kaiser Wilhelm the second class of battleship. Which brings us to the secondaries. Now, what I'm thinking here is to put a relatively large secondaries on this ship. We could go with the 150s, but what if we used the 203mm guns? And so let's have a look what the effective range on the 305s was. Not sidelined, center lines. So I would say 10,000 meters, so 10 kilometers is probably the effective range of these. So if we put 203mm secondaries turrets onto this thing, if we can fit them, that is. I haven't tried that, we'll have to check. And we might already be out here, because I don't think I can actually fit these on here. Yeah, that looks rather... Nope, no, there was a place where I could fit one in. Let's see if we can fit the turret anywhere here, but I think these are just too large. Yeah, this would be a terrible firing angle. These are just too big. We could give it a wider beam and see if we can fit them on. So what if we increase the beam by 5%? Nope. Come on, let me do that, game. There we go. So 5% beam increase. Can we fit these turrets on now? Not without severely impacting the firing angles of the other guns that we have. So probably not worth it. So I guess we'll revert to the 150s. We could try 170s. We could turn these into 180s or similar. But I think I'm still not really having a good spot to put these things. Let's see what the 150s look like. Yeah, the 150s look better. So I think we're going to go down more towards a standard layout. Let's see if we can get the beam back down to 0. Because length to beam ratio is quite important, but I think with we do need some on this hull. We're going to need some increase on the beam. What does it look like if I put these here? How bad is that impact? Yeah, it's impacting the lower front turret quite a bit, because it can't depress towards that side easily anymore. But this would be sort of workable. The bigger problem is that I can't fit any more of them on it, because oh no, I could fit a couple there, but that has the turret ring hangover, and I'm not doing that. That looks weird. So let's go back to the 5% beam increase. That is costing us on range quite massively, and it would increase the overall tonnage as well. So we might have to reduce that again. Can we fit these anywhere in this hole? Yeah, the superstructure, the superstructure here is very, very large. The other thing we could do let's try that quickly. We could not use that superstructure, but use the more traditional superstructure, the most traditional forward superstructure, and have a decent amount of space remaining. Only in this case we are going to need a barbette, so we would need I think the medium superimposed should work. So we could get that there and could set up this one here, and we have sufficient space also to pull these 150s back a little bit more. So that might not be bad. The big question is, could we now fit the really big ones here? And I think the answer is yes. So I'm very tempted to forego the benefits of that massive superstructure and instead build a more traditional battleship that is going to get the, I think, which one was I using? This one? Yeah, probably. So that is going to, we still have forward weight offset, so let's get that centered as much as we can. And we can compress the superstructure a bit here, and we can move these backwards a little bit. We still have good firing angles. Yep. And now we can try to fit 203mm secondaries in here, because it's the Kaiser. It has to slap. So that would be the forward secondaries. And we would get a second set here. All right, that is actually, you know, we have a bit of an aft weight offset, but we can balance that out with the casemates because we can still fit some casemates into here. We're 25,000 tons, so we still, and we don't have to increase the beam to make that happen, which keeps our range in good shape. We do have to put barbette armor in though now, so that's definitely something that needs to happen. That's costing us a bit of weight. We can even put 203mm casements around. Not too many of them, but we can do that a little bit. Oh, we already have an aft weight offset. Hang on, I wanted to put them then forward, right? Yeah, we're on aft weight offset, so I can probably put these a little bit forward. Maybe those two. Still have an aft weight offset. Okay, interesting. I mean, I can easily just move the superstructure forward because these guns can easily, or should be easily able to move. Hang on. Let's see. We can. Okay, let's put everything in first because I have a barbette here now. I can actually move these quite a bit forward still. So. Oh no, now they're starting to impact the forward gun turret. So if we move them there, and we have to adjust the other side as well. There. Okay, still got a bit of an aft weight offset. We can literally just put another 203mm casement gun in here. There we go. These things are heavy. These things are crazy. 100 tons of each of those. So for the rest of them, we are actually going to not go for the 150s, but we are going for 105mm. And I'm going to put a couple more casements in here. And then we'll put a bunch of the... can we put 88mm double barrel secondaries? I don't think we have space for these anywhere, because we can't put them on the... We could put some on the lower deck here, but... I don't think it's worth it necessarily. I think we're just going to put the 88mm casements into the superstructure. There we go. Doink, doink, doink. And then the rest we can spend on other things, because we haven't put the rangefinder on yet. We do have still a little bit of an aft weight offset, but no. What? Undo. Undo. I know, I just picked it up. I thought I removed it. Okay. So that impacts the guns. We'll just leave it there. We can use these are fine. Game, what are you talking about? These are fine. Yeah. Did my 88s get removed? No, they're still there. Okay, cool. Hey, we can fiddle with that. We can fiddle with that relatively easily. So let's finish up the rest of it and see how much I don't know what guns have poor sector of fire. These are okay. Forward guns are fine. Yeah, this is I mean, these aren't great, but for this thing forward, if this charges you, has some serious firepower. So that is it worth it putting these big secondaries in there? Maybe, we'll find out. Anyway, just out of curiosity, can I fit any of them in there? No, these are the smaller ones. All right, let's have a look at the armor plating. Oh yeah, and the obviously the shells. So we're gonna go with increased armor piercing and standard ratio secondaries, actually, because we might because we are firing really large caliber secondaries. These things have a penetration of 129 millimeters of belt at 5 kilometers. So they should make an absolute mince out of cruisers that are coming, but they are not firing relatively quickly. So we are probably going to be going more for ranged, which means coincident rangefinder. And let's look at the armor. So I would like to have 400 millimeter of main belt. We can that would completely protect us from our own guns. And they have a maximum deck. What are the biggest guns that we have in the game right now? So the biggest guns that we know of are the 330 millimeters. They have a maximum deck penetration of 140 millimeters at 20,000 meters, but they're never going to hit anything. So if we're doing a 150 millimeter main deck, we should be relatively good. And we can go with 200 millimeters. How does it look if we do 200 millimeters on the fore and aft belt? And then we do 100 millimeters on the fore and aft deck. We're getting there. Maximize the inner deck armor and maximize the inner belt. Then we can, I think 400 millimeter is sufficient for the conning tower. Let's give it some 20 millimeter superstructure armor, just to make it not too easy. Turret armor, we are going, can we go up to 400? Yes, we can. And then we'll go with 150 millimeter top. Yep. And can we go the barbette up to 400 as well? The 203 millimeters are going to get a slightly reduced armor. So let's do 200 and 100 and 200 on the barbette. There we go. Sorry, by the way, if I'm doing this in millimeters and not in inches. If I'm playing the American, then I'm going to have to do that in inches. The casemates don't need that much armor, so we can save a little bit here. We're just going to give them we're going to give them a little bit, actually a lot less armor on the casemates, and the 76s definitely don't need that much armor. So let's reduce that a little bit. We do need to adjust the turrets. These need to be 105s, and these need to be 88s. So there we go. We've still got some to spare, but we haven't set we haven't done these yet. So we wanted to go cap ballistic, and that looks very different, but still it means we are. It's easier if I show you here. So. We've got 400 millimeter belt armor with our armor quality of 115%. So we are immune up to at 10,000 meters, a full broadside against 330 millimeter main guns, which is bigger than caliber than what we actually have. So definitely sufficient amounts of armor. And on the deck, what did we do? Deck armor, 150 millimeter. So again, at 10,000 meters, which is kind of the range that we're assuming that things happen, we are going to be we're going to be well enough protected, especially with the inner belt and the inner deck. I don't think that's going to be easy to citadel and have a significant amount of firepower. I'm going to stick with the nose fuse shells for HE. That means the 203s, actually the 105s is the ones that we care about, can still well, they're gonna struggle with HE against things like destroyers. So maybe we could go. What if we go over to base fuse? What does that look like? Still not great penetration on the HE on the 105s, and the 88s. We're not even going to start looking at the HE. I mean, we're on standard. We could go soft capped for the HE, which would give the 105s probably sufficient penetration to deal with destroyers, but it is going to reduce the actual damage, obviously. But I mean, they can always fire armor piercing against destroyers, and just use the HE nose fuse to set fire. So let's go with that. So we're still on ballistite and TNT rather than the more explodey things. We can go for enhanced reloading, which gets that up a little bit. These are 46 calibers in length. These are 41 calibers. We can make the we could make the 203s a little bit longer, but I'm okay with that. I think I'm going to leave it like that. And in order to compensate for the traverse, we can go to advanced hydraulic, and we are within weight, and we still have a little bit of. We've got 17,000 kilometer range. Could we go higher? We could go to 19,000 kilometers range, but that means she would outrange the whole fleet. So we may as well just leave it like that. So I think, unless we want to stick a couple of, can we fit these guys anywhere? How are we? We've got an aft weight offset of 4%, so that's something we need to work with still. But we could put we could put a little 88 millimeter turret here somewhere if we can squeeze it in. But it's going to impact the 206s, and we can't get them onto the lower decks, I believe. Yeah, not really. So, okay, let's balance out the ship, and what do we have? Aft weight offset. So we just need to move everything a little bit forward, and then we're good to go. So I will be right back with the ship being balanced. And here we have it, the Kaiser Wilhelm II class of Super Dreadnought battleship. Very heavily armed, very heavily armored, big ship, and it's going to be the flagship and pride of the fleet. And it's perfectly balanced. All right, let's save that design. The other thing that we need to do is we need to do something about our destroyers, because the destroyers currently have some minesweeping equipment, but they don't actually have mine layers by themselves. And also, they're not particularly good. So we are going to start build some more destroyers that we can use in ports to lay mines, to sweep mines, and for general escort duty. So sort of like an escort destroyer. And we're going to use either that or a light cruiser. We could also think of light cruisers, but I think we still got sort of the single barrel main guns here. I'm not a huge fan of that. So if we go for the destroyer and try to build a slightly more modern destroyer than the S-138 class of destroyers that we have here, so let's see what we can do here. So we can we can eventually refit the S-138s as sort of mine layers and get these in here as fleet escorts. Probably many bulkheads. What's the design speed of this thing? 34 knots. Yeah, so that's something we want. And that would be the V16 class, because reasons. Standard crew quarters, and let's see what we can do with this thing. So, main tower we're gonna need, we already have one. Secondary tower somewhere back here. Main guns, I'm thinking 105 mils, so we stick one in the front, and we probably stick one in the rear, and put a little barbette here, and put a third gun up there. Because right now we only have the twin torpedo launchers, so we can stick one here, and the other one, well, we need some funnels, but we probably can stick a second torpedo launcher there. Let's see what we can do with funnels. Where can we fit this here? Okay, so we can't fit that up top there. So we might be able to fit another gun up there, maybe. Well, unless we can fit a torpedo launcher there. Okay, that's 61% engine efficiency. However, I could get into induced boilers, which gives me more engine efficiency on that, and that would work. Also, we want to turbine engines and semi-oil, so this might actually be already on natural. Yeah, that's actually good enough for natural. And we do want a better range on these things, because if they are fleet escorts, they're going to have some range on them. So let's see if we can just... forward weight offset's going to be pretty dreadful, but let's see if we can squish another torpedo launcher in there. How far back can we put these guns? There. And another twin deck launcher here, right behind the superstructure. There. How far back can we pull this before we start impacting it? That's okay. Can we pull it one more? A little bit closer. Yep, that's still okay. So we can still pull that back a little bit. There. Not two of them. Just one, please. I didn't even know you could put two of them. Side mounted. Well. So that gives us 3 guns. I would love to have a 4th one. Can I fit one here? I can indeed. So now we've got four guns. We'll up them to 4 guns, 4 torpedo launchers, and we can. With this gun, they're just going to get a petrol engine. I mean, how much is it's not that expensive. Okay, let's give them the good stuff. We stick with the balanced hydraulic rudder, and yes, obviously Krupp armor, double hull. Now I don't want to make them too expensive, because I do want to have a lot of these. Honestly, if these things start flooding, we give them a bit of anti-flood. How much is the price difference going to be here? Not significant. Reinforced bulkheads. Yeah. We don't want our ships to sink. On the other hand, also these things are getting so expensive that we can't make them in sufficient numbers. So we might have to take a little bit of a step back here at times. What are these guns capable of? Let's fix the. Let's get them to 105 millimeters. So these things are currently, what are they firing? Nose fuse HE. That's not gonna do the trick. The armor piercing, however, is. So if we go with semi-armor piercing on these, and because they're not going to penetrate anything heavy anyway, that should be enough to get through enemy destroyers, which is really the only thing that I want them to fight. Standard shell size. We do want larger torpedoes, however. They don't really need any long-range accuracy. That is, we're going to give them the decent rangefinder. And yes, mine laying and mine sweeping. That is the equipment that we were after. Now, let's give them 30 millimeters of belt armor. How much can we penetrate? Let's give them 35. That would make them resistant at 5,000 meters against enemy fire of the same caliber. And we might actually, there's really no need for an all or nothing scheme of some sorts. Obviously, larger calibers are going to get through. So we'll give them 15 millimeters of deck armor all around. I mean, we've got the weight, we've got the displacement. 35 on the conning tower. Superstructure does not need to be armored. I mean, can we give them 35 on the superstructure? We can. We may as well. Turrets don't get any armor. No citadel, obviously, of any sorts. So that would be and we've got a manageable forward weight offset, I'd say. Let's see if we can squish that a little bit and see if we can get them a little bit more balanced. I can't get that thing any more forward. I might be able to push no, can't push that any more forward. We actually have a forward weight offset. Okay, I'm going the wrong way here. Can I put that a little back, honestly? How far back can we get? We can still move this turret a little bit to the rear. And now we're actually balanced already. Perfect. Okay. Yep, I'll take it. So balanced ship, decent engine efficiency. I am almost tempted to give them induced boilers just for better engine efficiency. Might do that because that they really, if they're maneuvering hard, then having better engine efficiency allows them to speed up a little better. So that is going to be the V16 class of destroyers. It is going to get confusing, but we now have a ship that can mostly keep up with the large ones. Can we still maximize the range? We could. It's going to make them more expensive again. I think that's good enough, honestly. So now we have a slightly more modern destroyer design that we can actually use as fleet escorts. So save that. And we are going to get 2 of the Kaiser Wilhelm II class battleships under construction. Yeah, we've got the Kaiser Wilhelm II and the Kronprinz both being under construction. Going to take 20 months to build them. And we're also going to build a bunch of these destroyers. Given that I'll have 2, maybe 3 fleets, I would like to have maybe 5 fleet destroyers each. So I'm going to go with 15 for now. And we'll have to check what our financial status is. I think we're still good budget-wise. So we may as well order some more of these newfangled submarines. We could just build a couple of mine layer submarines, to be honest, and that'll be quite useful as well. We can position them in ports and use them to... I'm not really keen yet on the coastal submarines. Maybe we'll build like 10 of those things, coastal mine layers, and we might build a couple of actual coastal submarines for an experimental submarine command to be used against the British. All right, now we're starting to look good in our naval construction. We could start refitting the existing ships as well, but I am hesitant to do so given the political situation, because there's the threat of war for us with both the British Empire, the French Empire, and the Russian Empire, and the Japanese don't like us too much either. So things might still get very interesting indeed. And as I mentioned it, the Empire of Japan actually demands that we stop naval activities near their borders. They consider them hostile. And the Prime Minister is asking for my advice on how to reply. We could pay them off, or we could outright refuse, or we can try to make a counteroffer. I would say we outright refuse, because our fleet is free to navigate not just on global waters, but also on our legitimate possessions in Tsingtao. So no, Japan, we outright refuse. In other news, the Greeks are fighting the Ottomans for control of northern Greece. They're trying to regain their autonomy, and this does not quite concern us, but there are definitely rumblings of war starting to be heard in Europe. The Russian Empire has started sending significant forces towards the Sea of Japan as well. We've seen a battle cruiser, a light cruiser, and 4 destroyers, as well as 2 battleships, a heavy cruiser and 2 destroyers, and a heavy cruiser, 6 light cruisers, and 1 destroyer, sailing out from the Russian ports, and with presumably the goal of reaching East Asia. The situation around the Yellow Sea remains tense. We have still 1 battleship, 1 battle cruiser, 2 heavy cruisers, and 1 light cruiser stationed in Tsingtao, but the Japanese are sending significant forces through the Sea of Japan and towards the Yellow Sea, and we are concerned about the political rumblings that the Japanese are putting out. Our relationship definitely has not improved. In other news, the Greek have allied themselves with us, or have at least become a friendly nation towards us, which means we may have to support their effort in the Aegean Sea. We are not at war with the Ottoman Empire, and we don't necessarily have any intention of going to war with the Ottoman Empire. But this situation might require a small German detachment, just to make sure what we might be able to send. Let's send one battleship. We are going to send a Deutschland-class battle cruiser, actually, and into the Aegean Sea, just to show our concern here. We're going to send the Schleswig-Holstein, escorted by the V-10 destroyer, and just to show our concern, we'll send them into the Aegean Sea to monitor what's going on between our ally Greece and the Ottoman Empire. An interesting development: the Chief Admiral of the Russian Empire has contacted us and expressed their concern about things ongoing in the world, and proposed that we improve the relations between the German and the Russian Empire. We're glad to hear that, because we are concerned more about the British and the French at this point. The Greek and the Ottomans are still fighting over northern Greece, and so far it looks like it's a bit of a stalemate, although the Ottoman Empire does have 3 destroyers stationed off the coast, presumably to provide naval support, which is another reason we're going to show the flag here, and just to make sure that it is known that Germany does not look kindly on this kind of behavior. The French on land, as has been reported to us, have assaulted Belgian troops. This has caused a major political rift between France and the British Empire. So this is great news for us, because that means the threat of facing both the French and the British at the same time is diminished, and as such we might be still facing off against each of them, but they are not necessarily going to be allied with each other. And while our relationship with the Soviets, with the Russian Empire, is still in a bad state, things might improve as time goes by. The Schleswig-Holstein and with her escort, the V-10, have arrived in the Aegean Sea. We will carefully sail somewhat closer to these Ottoman ships here, and see if we can dissuade these destroyers from bombarding Greek troops on the coast. With the support of our heavy ships, Greece has managed to defeat the remnants of the Ottoman Empire's forces and has gained full control of northern Greece. That will, with the mission now complete, we will move these ships back to their home port, and the world is once again a little bit of a safer place. That's it. That's going to be it for me today. Thanks everybody, and I will see you next time. Bye bye.